Opening up the mailbag to see what has changed about the Celtics since the All-Star break. Should we really be nervous about the Denver Nuggets? And mind games. We're playing mind games right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the Seeds game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D White on the breakdown. John on the mic documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all Seas Nation. Rain and J's how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day, Monday through Friday. I got bonus podcasts for you whenever they play on the weekends, like I did on both games this past weekend, like I will from New Orleans when they play next week. So make sure you're subscribed to get all of this Celtics content dropped directly to your device. Get that show on YouTube, watch there, hop into the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. I used to play ball a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. Today, we're getting into the mailbag. Lots of questions. Later on, we'll play some mind games. We'll talk about which Celtics are having the best seasons of their careers, and it's a lot of them. We'll get into that later on. Nerves about the Nuggets, Payton, Pritchard, all of that stuff is coming up. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. You want to submit a question? It's johnkaralis.com/mailbag. That is the only way I'm accepting these questions, because that's the only way I can get them organized. And trust me, when I find a way to get things organized, I stick with it, because it's not easy for me. So johnkaralis.com/mailbag. I do get a lot of questions. I don't get to all of them. I'm trying to come up with, I was going to do YouTube shorts. That didn't work out for me. So we'll get to as many as possible. So let's just dive into the mailbag here, starting with Finn, who asks, since the All-Star break, everybody has been playing better than before. What do you think has changed? Frankly, I think everybody just got a break. That's the number one thing, is that everybody just got a little bit of a break, and good seasons. You know, everybody had been having good seasons. Taking a little bit of a break, go clear your head, get off your feet, go sit in the sun, get a tan, play some golf, do whatever the hell you want to do. All of that gives you a little bit more of a clear mind. Guys, you get a little healthier. I think that is probably the biggest thing. And now, because the All-Star break isn't the middle of the season, it's 2/3 of a way into the season, but it's the middle of Boston season. You come out of that feeling a little bit refreshed, and you know, okay, 2 months to go, then it's the playoffs. Let's get focused. Let's get right. Let's get this stretch run going. Let's lock this up so we can get ourselves to the playoffs. So I think it all adds up to easier, better focus. Just everything's just, when you get that vacation, you can come back and be like, all right, feel refreshed. I'm ready to tackle the day. So I honestly think it's as simple as that. Chris asks, is Payton Pritchard the fastest player in the league these days? He's playing like it. Love the energy he brings. Let me fold in Eli's question. Could Oshae Brissett be the Celtic energy guy in the playoffs? I think energy guys is the topic of this. Pritchard is one. Oshae is one. Regular season, definitely. I don't know if you need energy guys quite like you do in the regular season in the postseason, because everybody should be focused. Everybody should be kind of, I think, present in the moment. It's a playoff game. I understand this is the Celtics. That Atlanta series last year, they took one extra game. It seems like they've always taken one extra game to close out a series. This year seems a little bit different. I think this year they're finally kind of where they should be with, when it comes to like wasting these games. I think they understand that when you waste the game, you give the other team life, and you have to take care of your business. Don't put off until tomorrow what you can do today. So I don't know if they're going to need the energy players during the postseason, but during the regular season, Pritchard, Brissett are definitely those guys. But if there is a low, those guys are definitely capable of bringing the energy. Now, if you can combine Brissett and Pritchard into one player, that would be amazing. But Pritchard has the stuff that Brissett doesn't, and vice versa. And so I think it'll be a little bit more situational. Brissett, bigger, longer, more versatile defender. Pritchard, better shooter, better ball handler. Brissett, not a shooter necessarily. So, I mean, I think Oshae Brissett's cool and all, but his shooting form, I can't really look at it for extended periods of time. It's not something I find aesthetically pleasing, but everything else he does is valuable. So, but it's one of those things where when it's a wonky kind of a wind up form like he has, if it's right, if it's working one day, he's very capable of getting hot. We've seen him do it. We've seen him do it against Boston last year. So, but the point is, to answer these questions directly, it's possible that these guys can step in during the playoffs and make some level of contribution. I'm saying that more about Brissett. I think Pritchard is going to get plenty of opportunity in the playoffs, but we broke it down with Tom Westerholm last week. There's not going to be a lot of minutes for these bench guys anyway, because the top 6 guys are going to take all but about 20 minutes of play. Maybe in the first round, it's going to be a little bit looser, depending on the opponent, depending on how it goes. But as you get into the second, third round, the conference finals, the NBA finals, it's going to be 6-man rotation, 7-man at best. So we'll see. Situationally, maybe. But, and is Payton Pritchard the fastest player in the league these days? I mean, he's right there. There are plenty of guys who are about as fast, but he looks super fast when the rest of the guys on the floor are jogging. Will asks, could Payton Pritchard be trade bait during the offseason? What could the Celtics get for him? Well, the answer is not very much. And that's a function more of the money than it is the ability. He's making what's he making next year? $6.5 million, $6.7 million, which is nice. I mean, somebody wants to pay me $6.7 million to do something, feel free. Locked On, just throwing it out there. If you feel like paying me $6.7 million to podcast, I will not refuse it. But when it comes to NBA terms, he's going to be outplaying that contract a little bit. And so he's not going to be the guy that you can't just say, here's Payton Pritchard, let's dangle him. What can we get for Payton Pritchard? Let's just pretend that you say Jordan Walsh is going to take his spot. Just pretend. That's not actually how I think about it. But you still, because he makes so little in terms of NBA contracts, you can't just say, here's Pritchard, let's get a much better player, or it still has to be somebody that makes around that same amount of money, especially because the Celtics are going to be over the second apron. So, but I'll even backtrack. Could he be trade bait during the offseason? I don't think so, unless he's included in a deal, but I don't even think the Celtics can aggregate salaries anymore this offseason. It's funky right now with all of this. There's going to be a window once the season ends, whenever it ends, even if they win a championship, between then and the draft, that maybe they can include him in a trade. It's a small window because it'll still be this calendar year of the NBA. So it may be a small chance, but I think after this season, once you get to July 1, if Payton Pritchard is still on the team, you can't aggregate him in a trade. It can only be 1-for-1. The money has to match. So what the Celtics are going to do is just keep him and say, this is a guy who makes less than $7 million and plays the way he plays. Let's just be happy that you got somebody cheap that plays that well and have him kind of accentuate the guys that you have, and he can get you through the regular season. And next year, once the playoffs come around, if he becomes a matchup issue, you just shrink your rotation, and there he goes. So that's a very long-winded way of me saying I don't think Pritchard is going anywhere. Up next, should the Celtics be nervous of the Nuggets? And how long can this group be kept together? And how many Celtics are having their best seasons of their careers? We'll count it all up next. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA is available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, as a registered broker dealer. Today's show is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports today. Forget Fox Sports. Forget ESPN. Put on Locked On Sports today all day long. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel. It's programmed for you. It's the biggest stories without all the screaming and yelling and fake arguments. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Let's get back to the mailbag, starting with Ethan. Should the Celtics truly be nervous of the Nuggets? They lost both games in the season series by only 8 points, but both times the Celtics were at their full strength, and the first loss was due to the Jays having a bad game. The second was a bad White Tatum game and the bench being silent. Will these issues be fixed in the playoffs? Will we even play the Nuggets in the playoffs? All right, Ethan. Yes, you should be nervous about the Nuggets because Nikola Jokic is a basketball god, a savant. He is so good. He is so good. Now, he has weaknesses. He can be attacked defensively. And if the Celtics have learned anything from their 2 games, and something that should give you confidence, is that I think they know how to attack Jokic defensively. Now, Denver is smart. Michael Malone is smart. They have counters, and I think the Celtics have counters to the counters. I think they know how to get Jokic involved in the defense, and so they have a way to attack him. The question is, can they prevent Jokic from making everybody better? Can they keep Jokic as one-dimensional as possible? And that's incredibly difficult. I think they might have ways to defend him that they haven't shown, because why would you show it at this point in the regular season. I think Joe Mazzulla is smart. I think he's smart when it comes to defense. We all know him as the offensive guy, and he loves three-pointers, but when he was the assistant, he was handling the defense. So I think he gets it. So yeah, if the Celtics play the Nuggets, that's gonna be a problem. I still think Celtics in 6, but it's not going to be an easy 6. I have a ton of respect for the Nuggets. I have a ton of respect for Jokic. If I'm wrong about that, if it is Celtics Nuggets, and I'm wrong about how it goes, I would not be surprised. I'm super confident in Boston, but I would not be surprised if Denver gets the best of Boston, which brings me to Ben's question: how important is home court for the Celtics in the playoffs? It is important against Denver. You do not want to go to Denver for game 1 of the NBA Finals. You do not want to start there. It's okay to be, you're going to be acclimated to the altitude. That's not what I'm talking about. You just don't want to give them any advantages, right? And you don't want the role players. You know what I'm saying? The concept that the role players play better at home. You do not want to give any of their role players the ability or the confidence. You want to start in Boston. You want to give your role players the confidence. You want to give, if they struggle, you want to see if that can carry over into game 3 before they find a groove. Super important. I don't care where they play the first 3 rounds, even if they play Milwaukee. I don't care where they play those games, but they're going to play them all at home because Boston is 1 win or 1 Milwaukee loss away from officially clinching. No tiebreakers involved, no nothing. Milwaukee did beat OKC before I recorded this podcast. So the magic number to clinch the overall top seed is 5. I think they're going to get it because I think the Celtics basically need to go like 6-5 or maybe even 5-6 at this point to still kind of get it. So I think it's 6-5, which they should do. So I think they're going to get it no matter what, but it's especially important for the NBA Finals. Let's pretend they do win the NBA Finals. Justin asks, if they do win the championship, I know we could be even better with another season under our belts. Do you think Brad can keep the team together for another 2 or 3 seasons? I think it's 3 seasons max. They can do it for next year. They can do it for the year after. I would be shocked if it gets to 3. They might be able to get to 3. But it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of luck because the Celtics aren't going to be able to make a lot of changes. So it's possible, and they may have to make like a big trade. So when we say keep the team together, if they win it this year, I think next year they run it back. If they were able to run it back and win it again next year, then that's where you like test the tensile strength of this. It's if you saw the second Top Gun where he's pushing that experimental plane to its limits and it finally blows up. That's not a spoiler. That's the beginning of the movie. That's going to be Brad Stevens. He's going to see how far he can, how many Machs can you push this team? And you can do 2 more years, maybe 3, possibly. But this new CBA, if it wasn't for this new CBA, I'd be talking about dynasty. I'd be talking about as long as Wick wants to pay the tax, as long as he's willing to open up the deep pockets, this team can roll for 5-6 years, 2-3 years tops. So, Justin, yes, but big question mark at the end of my answer. Okay, let's get to Andrew here before we get to the next break. How many Celtics are having the best season of their careers? Let's start with the starters. Jaylen Brown, definitely having the best season of his career. I think he's playing his best basketball. He's playing great. I've been critical of him. I thought he started the season not playing great. Something clicked, and now he's he's getting better and better as the season goes along. So Jaylen, hell yes, best season of his career. Derek White, easily best season of his career. He is amazing. Porzingis, iffy. He's had better statistical seasons. He's had all-star seasons. He could have been an all-star this year. So I'm going to say he's had better seasons because he's had like higher usage and stuff. But the way he's playing right now, you could make the argument that Porzingis is playing some of the best basketball of his life. But is he having the best season? That's iffy. Okay, let's throw that one aside. So we've got Derek, we got Jayson, we've got Jaylen. Holiday, no, he's had better season. He's taken a big step back. Playing great, but he's sacrificed a lot. That brings me to Jayson Tatum as far as the starters go. Jayson is an interesting one because I think he's had better statistical seasons. He's obviously had a better statistical season. This might be his most complete season when you factor in defense, playmaking, all of it, reading the game, seeing the game, processing the game. This might be the best season of his career. I think I'm going to include him. I think that's 3 starters. And then you go to the bench. Pritchard, yes. Hauser, yes. Absolutely. That's your top. Horford, no, but that's your top 8. That works for me, man. I think that's Luke Cornett. Yes. So where are we? Derek, Jaylen, Jayson, Pritchard, Hauser, Cornett. 6 Celtics. I think legitimately 6 Boston Celtics are having the best seasons of their careers. That is an incredible best case scenario. Let's hope it continues. But yeah, absolutely 6 solidly, yes, having the best seasons of their careers, with an asterisk at Porzingis, because that one is up for debate. Jayson is an interesting conversation. We could probably do a whole podcast about those 2 guys, whether they're having the best seasons of their careers. All right, up next, we play mind games. I explain what Joe Mazzulla means when he says winning the margins. That's all coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. They are the #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members, but you're not playing against any one of them. It's you against the projections. Prize Picks sets the number. You click on that number. You say, oh, I think Jayson Tatum is going to have more or less than the points or rebounds or assists. You can go to, it's not just basketball, a number of sports, worldwide sports, international sports, any kinds of, like, tons of different projections. There's so much you can choose from. So there's something there for everybody. And right now, it's demon time on Prize Picks. You can win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into 1,000. Demons and goblins are the most exciting way now to play at Prize Picks. The squares are marked with red demons or green goblins, so you get different payouts. You can win up to 100 times your money. All you need is as few as 4 correct picks, quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types, weekly promotions that lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each player's projections are discounted up to 25%. So much more there at Prize Picks. Go check it out. Daily fantasy made easy. And it's you get a $100 instant deposit match on your first deposit at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA if you use the code LockedOnNBA. prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Code is LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, let's get into the final batch of questions here, starting with Nick, who said, I saw Steve Kerr get burned by trying to play a mental game with Jaylen Brown. Wrong player, but maybe not the wrong tactic. Who do you think is the best guy to test? KP is unproven. White is confident, but dare I say a reluctant scorer. Do you foresee teams testing those guys down the stretch? I will disagree on Derek White being a reluctant scorer. I think one of the things that I've seen this year is that he is no longer reluctant. He understands the hierarchy of, Jayson, Jaylen, and then him, maybe Porzingis first, then him. So he's willing to kind of be this amorphous type of basketball player. He kind of fits into wherever you need him to. Need him to shoot a lot, need him to not shoot much. He can do whatever. But, look, Jaylen was the wrong guy to test, but not to go all Draymond Green here, but he made those shots, and it's a make-miss league. If he missed that first one, who knows how the second ones go? I might just test to see, okay, if you're going to play mind games, let's see what Jaylen has, right? Like, it depends on how Jayson is playing. And the one thing, and it's not happening this year, but I've always seen Jaylen kind of be like, oh, well, Jayson's doing this. Well, now I'm doing this. Oh, Jayson's, ISOing a lot. Well, now I get to ISO a lot. And I think there was like a little bit of like, hey, I'm at his level too. And that's kind of gone away. I think Jaylen has played mostly his own game and not worried about that stuff this year. And that's why he's playing the best basketball. I think a lot less is going on in his mind, which is why the mind game didn't work with him. But playoffs, you say, different story, right? Let's just give it one more chance. And that's just, if I'm the opposing coach and it's the first round and I'm like, hey, Celtics are a juggernaut. They're rolling us. Let me try something. This is a desperation kind of tactic. The other guy might be Porzingis just because like you haven't had a lot of playoff opportunity. Maybe let's see where his head is at. But I don't think the mind games are the way to go with the Celtics. But I also don't know what the way to go is with the Celtics. It's just, you just try to force Jaylen and Jayson into old habits, and hopefully you can force some turnovers from the other perspective. Like, that's the only way I can see it. And I just don't think the Celtics are giving into that this year. So mind games might be the last act of a desperate team. And if that's the case, then that's how I would go. Fernando says, what does Joe Mazzulla mean when he says win the margins or dominate the margins? What are the margins? The margins are the little statistical things that you look at that maybe most people don't look at, that go beyond scoring, points, rebounds, assists. It's field goal attempts. Can you win the shot differential? That's one of the margins, right? So when Boston shoots the ball 90 times and the opponent shoots at 85, that's one of the margins that they're winning. That's one of the, when you talk about the margins, it's the peripheral stuff. It's the offensive rebounds. It's the points off turnovers. It's the second chance points. It's those little things that go beyond how many points did you score? Like, you can say the Celtics, let's just say the Celtics win a game 110-100. Well, how did you get to 110? Did you have a proper distribution? Those are the margins. Did you outshoot the other team? Or if you get to 110, but you didn't shoot, you shot 70 field goal attempts to the other team's 90. You lost that margin. And when you look at the margins and you win a game, but you lose a lot of the margins, then you can look at it and say, boy, we got lucky. We won this game. Because somewhere along the way, there's something that the Boston did that's an outlier. You scored 110 because you shot 60% from three, right? You didn't shoot enough to get the volume that you need to beat the other team. You didn't rebound enough to like offensive rebounds to give yourself multiple cracks at a shot attempt, at a field goal, those types of things. So a 110-100 win is not the same depending on how you got there. If you scored 110 and you outshot the other team 90-85, then great. You got up enough shots to get you the attempts that you need, the volume that you need to score the points. Free throws. Did you get enough free throws? Does that mean you're attacking well? Did you get to the basket? Did you make the right reads at the basket? How many assists did you have? Those types of things are the margins. So when you win those margins, when you focus on those things, dominating the margins, that is generally going to lead you to wins. When you look at field goal attempts, 3-point attempts, free throw attempts, assists, or more than that, potential assists, offensive rebounds, second chance points, fast breaks, turnovers, points off turnovers. If you can win those margins, then you're going to win most of those games. You can win those margins and lose for sure, but it's not just about the final score, because the final score can be deceiving. Now, obviously, you want the final score to be in your favor, but if you are winning without winning those margins, you're skating by and you're not playing the right way, and ultimately you're going to start to lose. Those are teams that go on streaks on both ends. Streaky shooting, then streaky bad shooting, and you lose 3-4 in a row. The Boston Celtics win a lot of the margins, dominate the margins. That's why they've only had two-game losing streaks. That's it. And they had more winning streaks than anything. So that's what the margins are. Carl asks, should the Celtics sign Marcus Morris Sr. back to Boston if he doesn't stay with the Cavs? Nope. I'm good. Don't need him. Nope. No thanks. It's as direct as I can be. Multiple people ask that question. I'm not adding any new people right now to this mix. They have plenty of people. Everything is great. Finally, Greg says, I have to admit, didn't like Drew Carter in the preseason. I was convinced him and Scal would not have chemistry during the broadcast, but I must say, he has completely changed my opinion over the course of the season. He's not afraid to give it back to Scal and the rest of the group, and I think he's done a fantastic job so far. It's not really a question, it's more of a comment, but I just want to say shout out to Drew Carter, because I think he does a really good job. He's not Mike Gorman. No one is. But Drew's coming in and developed a rapport with Scal. He's a young dude. We've had him on the show. It's, he's a good guy. He's a ball buster. So very New England, he's got that ball buster in him. Very goes back and forth with Scal. I think he won Scal over by continuously giving it back to him, and he's willing to take the shot. He's willing to get in there and throw the jab. And maybe sometimes it results in Eddie House wanting to rip his face off because he made a comment, and it was after Eddie House's son lost in the NCAA tournament, and Eddie just is emotional and he was not feeling it. And he was like, hey, I'm going to give you a break. But what he wanted to be like, hey, expletive. But that's, I think Drew was ready for that. And I think he's done a really good job. And it's a new era. It's a new time. And like at some point, this podcast, if it lasts forever, it won't be with me, because things change. And at some point, it will exist in a different form. Somehow it will exist in a different form, with me, without me, however it is. Just look at the YouTube stuff. The YouTube didn't exist a couple years ago. And now here we are. I'm doing the shows on YouTube. So things are constantly evolving. Things change. And I think Drew Carter is a good change. He's doing a good job. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that I wish it was, I wish it had worked. I'm nothing against Drew, but I do wish the Sean Grandy thing had worked out. And I think there might have been there's a universe where it would have, and maybe we can argue that it should have. But that's a different topic for a different day. I do think Drew has done a good job, and this is where we are. And I think he's doing a good job. You can find Sean Grandy on the radio still, and in one of the million other things that he does, I think still. So, he'll be fine, but hey, this is how it goes. And, it sucks. I do think there's more to the story, but anyway, that's going to be, like I said, a conversation for another time. I want to say thank you so much for everybody who listens, for everybody who's watching on the YouTube page. Thank you so much. I would love it now if you are, if you subscribe, if you share the podcast, spread the word, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.